Well, as mentioned earlier in the bulletin, it's been announced David Bain will not receive compensation for wrongfully spending 13 years in prison. University of Otago Dean of Law Mark Henaghan has followed the case since it began more than 10 years ago, and he joins us now to talk about this latest development. Good evening.
Good evening. It was the 1990s. It was before you were born.
Oh, you flatter me. Now, what was the first thing you thought when you heard this decision?
Well, I think it's relief that finally it's come to an end. I mean, it's gone on for a long time, really, so it's good to have some conclusion.
But do you think it has come to an end?
Well, I think the payment today, it wasn't payment for compensation, because the latest judge who looked at it didn't find on the balance of probabilities that David Bain was innocent, so that's one of the core findings you have to pay compensation for innocence. I think it was paid, primarily they said because it was a long drawn out case, but I think also it looked like there was some agreement between the government and David Bain's supporters and lawyers that, look, we'll pay you this, and that's the end of it. We don't want it going any further. I don't think they would have had much of a chance of taking it to court, because this is not a court decision. This is just a advice to the government by a judge who spent a lot of time, 148-page report, looking at it. So it's not like it's an appealable thing anyway. So I don't think it would have been. But I think it was kind of, look, at the end of the day, we're prepared to give you this, and please, can you agree that you won't take matters any further?
What are the requirements to get compensation?
Well, to get compensation for innocence, you have to show on the balance of probabilities. Someone has to do a kind of a whole scoping through all the case, and this judge did, and prove on balance that you're innocent. Now, David Bain didn't fit neatly within the normal requirements. Like Taina Poor, the last case, the man that got $2 million, he went to the Privy Council. The Privy Council said, look, we'll quash your conviction. I mean, the court got it wrong, and we don't even believe there's any evidence to go to a trial. So, and then a report found that he was innocent. In this case, David Bain went to the Privy Council. They said there was some things wrong with the evidence, but there's still enough evidence to go to trial. So he had to prove that not only was he innocent in the balance of probabilities, but there was something exceptional about his case. He didn't get across the first hurdle, so there was no way he would have got compensation in the normal sense here.
Why has it taken so long to reach this decision?
Well, I think the judges in this case, and it's taken a long time because there's been 3 reports. There was the first judge who the government, and that was probably the most controversial thing, the government obviously had some qualms about, and they're entitled because they don't have to pay compensation, it's not required. They got it checked by a QC who said there's some methods used here weren't appropriate, and so the government said, we'll put it out to another judge. He's a senior High Court judge in the High Court from Australia, retired judge, so he's a very good judge. He spent a long time on this, and he's written a very comprehensive 148-page report, and so that's taken some time to come through. It's not something, he's gone through all the evidence and all, and it's a lot of stuff to go through, and he's concluded on balance that there isn't sufficient evidence here to say David Bain, on balance of probabilities, was innocent.
What is this ex gratia payment all about? I mean, it looks kind of like a golden handshake.
Well, ex gratia just means they don't have to do it. There's no requirement to do it, so they're doing it out of goodwill. So that's all it really means. And so they're saying, look, it's been a long process. It's been an unusual case. We can't think of anything like it in our history. We're prepared to pay you that. It's cost you a long time. We're not saying you're innocent. On the other hand, this has been an unusual case. And also, if you agree not to keep banging the drum here and keep taking matters further, which I can understand his supporters may want to do, we're prepared to pay this amount. So it serves 2 purposes. One is some acknowledgement that it was a very complex and difficult case, and secondly, if they've probably agreed to say, look, we're not going to take matters any further. So it kind of ends the matter. It kind of ends in some sort of a bit of like a stalemate. I mean, in the sense that there's no official finding of innocence, but David Bain was found not guilty by a jury of 12, and so he's free to go about his business. And this is some, I suppose, payment to kind of say, well, look, it's been unusual. We're prepared to give you some of your losses back, and if you agree to not keep pursuing this matter.
So you're saying that he would have had to have agreed to this ex gratia payment in order for it to be made?
Well, I think there's been an agreement. I don't think he has to agree to it, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's obviously agreed, and there's been some terms set out. I mean, I don't think the minister set them out, but it was clear from her statement that that there was an agreement. This would be the final. This will be it, basically. So I think that was incentive for the government to pay this, because it has gone on for a long time. It goes right back to about 1995, and so I think it's good to have an ending. It's not a perfect ending for anyone, but at the end of the day, it is a conclusion. I think it's been exhausted through every process: courts of appeal, judges' inquiries, governments looking at it. And I think we've got to say at a certain point, it's got to stop. Yeah.
Has any other compensation applicant received a payment like this before in New Zealand?
No, this is unusual. I mean, people have got compensatory payments like Tana Pora and others, and Arthur Allen Thomas, for example. But this is the first one where they've just said, look, we're going to pay you because it's a difficult, unusual case, and we want it to finish. No, there hasn't been, and the minister admitted that. This is a new precedent, I suppose, in some ways. Yeah.
And David Bain has come out today and said they got it wrong.
Sure.
Do you think he's going to do or likely to do anything more?
I think he still believes, and he's entitled to believe that, and I think his supporters believe in good faith that he is innocent, and I suppose if you believe you're innocent, you believe you're innocent. The fact they've accepted it, they're not saying we accept we're not innocent, they're just saying, look, all right, we'll stop pursuing this process, but we still deeply believe that David is innocent. He strongly believes that, and he's entitled to accept that belief. And there will be debates while people are still around in pubs and clubs all around New Zealand saying, you know, what do you think? And what we think doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, the government's paid a certain amount of money, and the money's come to a conclusion.
University of Otago Dean of Law Mark Henaghan, thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure.